Except in the world I was raised in and still live in, there is no respect for any choice that isn't marriage. Because if you live with somebody and you're not married and you have kids, they consider you a whore. And it's sad. It's really sad. There's a lot of nice people out there that aren't married. But it's just an issue when it comes right down to it all. And I always feel bad for people that just can't catch a break. And I've met a lot of women that realize too late that they just don't want to be a mother. And that's okay. Not everybody wants or even has the skills, desire, or the drive to be a mother. The problem is when organized religion says that's the only permissible, respected, and applauded choice. And if you choose to be a child-free, man-free, pet-free person, you're basically deemed a failure. And it's sad. And you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to deal with those kind of issues. We need to start viewing a single woman with a cat as respected and applauded as being a wife with 2 kids. And we need to stop making jokes about child-free women who have a cat. Because men and women who uphold the patriarchy, they shame and dehumanize women who love cats and enjoy being single of their own free choice. I mean, there are worse things than having a cat, and that should be a wonderful thing. In my opinion, when people say there's nothing worse than having a cat and being a single woman, my response would be, living with you would be worse. Living with a narcissistic, patriarchal man who hates his own wife. That is worse than having a cat. And having a cat should be a plus 100. And being married to a narcissist should be on the way other spectrum. Having cats sounds like a wonderful way to live life, even though I'm not really into pets. But our society has nothing but contempt for women who own cats and are single. Men will rip women apart verbally, online, in person, in any way. If a woman dares to have a bodily autonomy and say, you know what, I just don't like kids. Or, I just don't want to. Men hate it. They hate and loathe and shame women for having the audacity to not want to have a man's kids. I mean, a man doesn't owe, and a man does not have a right to have kids unless somebody gives him a child or someone wants to give him a child. Women don't owe a man children or anything except honesty and integrity. I mean, we all owe each other to be honest and to be safe around each other. But beyond that, we don't owe men nothing. We don't owe them anything. And men sometimes need to be told, you know what? I don't want anything from you. You're not a healthy person. You're toxic. And if you ever wonder why women don't want to give you a child, it's because you're the child. And women get respect pushing a baby in a stroller, not being married to one. And there's some nice men out there. But it's just not something I want to do. And men out there, oh boy, they take it so personally when a woman is child-free. It's like, I didn't do nothing to you. Just because I choose not to irrevocably change, alter my body to have a kid has nothing to do with them. But yet, you didn't have a child or get married, you're selfish. And I'm thinking, the desire to shame women into not having your kids is selfish, not the act of choosing not to have kids. Personally, I think having children is the most selfish act you can do. Because who in their right mind would want to bring a child into the world during the Trump administration? But if you're going to have a child, do it because you want to, not because religion says this is what a godly woman looks like. And based on what the Bible records, they have no moral high ground for what godly is. Because I'll quote the genocides, the infanticides, the rapes, the colonialization, the murder of people, the utter contempt certain groups in the Bible had for neighboring people. The Bible has no moral high ground. And seeing how well the Christian community voted against women's rights, Christians don't have any moral authority because their book is not a moral authority. And there are good Christians out there, and they're not good because their Bible says they're good. It's because they help people, they don't vote against women's rights, and they treat everyone with respect. But you don't have to be Christian to be that. And I've met very few Christians that do meet that standard. That's not a surprise. But our society, we are obsessed with women and what women are doing with their body, or in this case, what they're not doing with their body. And just because a woman has a uterus doesn't mean she has to use it any more than women having a skill doesn't mean she has to use it. And anyone can have a child. Just because you have the parts and the opportunity doesn't mean you have to make use of it. Just because you own a car doesn't mean you have to drive it. If you want to, fine. But the idea, Christians worship what they call the biblical idea of marriage. Biblical marriage is polygamy. Anything but that, people don't know what they're talking about. Marriage was never about love in the Bible. It was about property exchange, whether it was animals, people, or property. But it was always about the exchange of property. It was never an equal partnership between two people who wanted to. They had no choice. Mary had no choice marrying Joseph. And she was barely... she was a pubescent girl. She was not a teenager. She was not an adult. She was a child. We need to stop glorifying child marriage and human trafficking, because nobody upholds human trafficking like Christianity, because they elected somebody who was best friends with a human trafficker. So the next time a Christian says they have the moral majority, the moral superiority, I'm going to respond with, no. No. Nobody has the moral high ground as long as the people do terrible things. And when the book that you consider the symbol and the mouthpiece of your religion says it's okay to commit genocide, you don't have the moral high ground. And no wonder the white settlers committed genocide, because they read the Bible. So as long as the church views women as defective or not performing God's role for them in their life, women are seen to be in rebellion. It's your life. If you don't want to be a wife or a mother, you're not rebelling against some invisible unicorn in the sky that doesn't exist. And some people waste their whole life trying to appease a God that doesn't exist. They make everyone and themselves miserable. Because biblical marriage is about owning another human being. It's not about love, respect, or companionship. It's about owning somebody. Because every time a marriage is recorded in the Bible, somebody moved property from one man to another. Because that's how betrothments happen. So the next time someone says biblical marriage, I'm going to say, are you talking about polygamy? Because I would say most women that are mentioned as being married are children. Or they're too old to be having kids. And no one can convince me that a 90-year-old woman had a baby. Okay? Nobody. Can't happen. I've never heard of it. So, a 90-year-old woman having a baby, it doesn't sound like a good thing at all. Not good. That sounds like a medical crisis. But we need to stop viewing women as being accessories and extensions of men. Because they're not. They're people. They're someone important. And respect is due to women. Not because of whose name they have, where they live, or who they share property with, but for that person.